When Orion Aerospace announced the project to develop a new propulsion system, I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. We were talking about a technological advance that could define the future of our company and, who knows, the aerospace industry as a whole. I decided I needed to volunteer to lead the team. I knew this meant leaving my comfort zone, but I was determined to prove I could do it. Right after the project presentation meeting, I went to the office of our director, Thomas Reynolds. "Mr. Reynolds, I would like to volunteer to lead the development of the new propulsion system," he said firmly, trying to hide any trace of nervousness. Thomas looked up from the pile of documents on his desk and stared at me for a moment before responding. "Emily, you are a talented engineer, but this is an extremely complex project. Are you sure you are ready for this responsibility?" "Yes, I'm sure. I am prepared to face challenges and I believe I can bring an innovative perspective to the team." He sighed, seeming to consider my words. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Okay, Emily. I'll give you that chance. But know that the pressure will be enormous, and many here will not make your life easier." I thanked him and left the office with a mixture of joy and apprehension. I had managed to lead the project, but I knew the path would be difficult. It wasn't long before I began to feel the skepticism of my more experienced colleagues. On the first day of meeting with the team, the tension was palpable. Some veteran engineers, like Mark Davis and Susan Thompson, barely concealed their displeasure. Mark was the first to speak. "So, Emily, what's the plan? We are all excited to see how you will lead this project," he said, with a hint of sarcasm. I took a deep breath and began to outline the initial stages of development, explaining my vision and the goals we needed to achieve. However, veiled criticisms continued to emerge. "Are you sure this approach is the best?" Susan questioned. "We've tried something similar in the past and it didn't work." "I understand your concerns, Susan. But I believe we can adapt the approach with some modifications that I have in mind," I replied, remaining calm. At the end of the meeting, I felt that there was a lot of work to be done not only in the technical development of the project, but also in building trust and respect within the team. I knew that every day would be a battle to prove my worth. During the following weeks, I dove headfirst into the project, dedicating long hours to solving technical problems and analyzing every detail. I encountered several obstacles that required creative and quick solutions. With each new challenge, I noticed the critical look of some colleagues, but I didn't let that get me down. On one of these nights of intense work, while fine-tuning the calculations for the propulsion system, John Mitchell, a veteran engineer I greatly respected, entered the room. "Emily, are you still here?" "It's past midnight," he said, with a mixture of surprise and concern. "Yes, John. There is so much to do and so little time. I need to make sure everything is perfect," I replied, without taking my eyes off the monitor. John came over and watched my calculations for a few seconds before speaking again. "You're doing a good job, Emily. I know some of our colleagues haven't been fair to you, but don't let that discourage you. We are all in the same boat." Those words of encouragement were a welcome relief. Feeling the support of someone as experienced as John gave me a new dose of energy and determination. I knew the journey was just beginning, but I was more motivated than ever to overcome all the challenges and show that, regardless of my age, I was capable of leading and innovating. So, with each small advance and each obstacle overcome, I began to gain more confidence and earn the respect of part of the team. The road ahead was still long, but I was more determined than ever to prove myself and bring the project to success. When I found myself faced with technical challenges that seemed insurmountable, I confess that I felt a mix of frustration and determination. Each day brought a new problem, a new barrier that needed to be overcome. It was in this chaotic scenario that John Mitchell, a veteran engineer who had initially doubted my abilities, began to approach me. "Emily, you seem to be struggling with the thrust calculations," John commented casually one day, while I was deep into a pile of notes and simulations. I looked up, surprised he'd noticed. "Yes, I'm trying to find a more efficient solution, but it seems like I'm at a dead end," I replied, trying to hide the tiredness in my voice. John smiled encouragingly. Maybe I can offer some suggestions. I went through something similar years ago. At first, I was hesitant. John was known for being one of Orion Aerospace's best engineers, but he also had a reputation for being quite critical. However, the need to move forward with the project outweighed any insecurities I might have had. Of course, any help would be appreciated, I agreed, gesturing for him to sit next to me. Over the next few weeks, John and I worked together intensely. He showed me techniques and approaches that I had never considered. His expertise was undeniable, but what surprised me was the way he began to trust my ideas. "You have a fresh and innovative perspective, Emily," he said once while we were discussing a new configuration for the thrusters. "This is exactly what this industry needs." Those words meant a lot to me. It was a sign that, despite all the difficulties, I was on the right path. Every day, our working relationship grew stronger. John wasn't just a mentor, he became a true ally. "John, I was thinking about using a different composite material for the engine casing. Something that's lighter but still strong," I said one day as we looked at the available materials. "Interesting. What material do you have in mind?" he asked, leaning over to examine my sketches. "I'm considering a modified carbon fiber composite. It has properties that could reduce overall weight without compromising structural integrity," I explained, feeling my enthusiasm grow. John pondered for a moment and then nodded. "Let's test this idea. It could be the solution we've been looking for." The collaboration between us began to generate tangible results. Technical difficulties that previously seemed like insurmountable mountains began to be overcome. Every small success was a step forward, and the trust John placed in me was powerful fuel. In addition to technical issues, John taught me a lot about the dynamics of leadership. He showed me the importance of listening to all team members, of considering different points of view and, above all, of never underestimating someone's potential, regardless of their age or experience. "Emily, leadership isn't just about giving orders. It's about inspiring trust and respect. It's about showing that you're willing to learn and grow with the team," he said, during one of our long conversations. These lessons were fundamental for me. John's mentorship not only helped me overcome the technical challenges of the project, but also prepared me to face the social and personal challenges that would come later. He showed me that true leadership is a combination of knowledge, empathy, and resilience. "Thanks, John. I don't know if I could have done it without your help," I said one day, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "You always had the ability, Emily. I just helped bring it to light," he replied with a smile. The partnership with John Mitchell was a turning point in my career. Together, we started to move the project in the right direction, and, most importantly, it gave me the confidence to believe in my own potential. I knew that leading a project as ambitious as the development of a new propulsion system at Orion Aerospace would not be easy, especially as a young engineer of just 23 years old. At this point, I had already overcome some technical challenges with the help of John Mitchell, my unexpected mentor. However, resistance from some team members due to my age and relative inexperience began to become a significant obstacle. Early on, I realized that some more senior engineers were unwilling to accept my leadership. During a team meeting, I noticed the looks of disdain and the sighs of impatience. One of the most tense moments occurred when we were discussing an approach to solving a critical problem in the propulsion system. "Emily, with all due respect, I think we should go with the traditional approach." "I don't know if your proposal will work," said Richard, an engineer with more than 20 years of experience at the company. I took a deep breath. "I understand your concern, Richard. But our goal here is to innovate, and the traditional approach hasn't brought us the expected results so far. Can we at least test my proposal in a controlled environment?" Richard crossed his arms, clearly suspicious. "If it doesn't work, it will be a waste of time," he muttered. "I accept responsibility if it doesn't work out," I replied firmly, trying to hide my frustration. The resistance of Richard and other team members was not just technical, it was personal. On many occasions, I heard comments about my age and lack of experience. This affected me deeply, but I knew I needed to stay calm and find a way to bring the team together. I decided the best approach would be to hold one-on-one meetings with each team member to understand their concerns and show that I was willing to listen. When I asked Richard to one of these meetings, he seemed reluctant. "Richard, I know you have doubts about my leadership," I began. "But I want to better understand your concerns and work with you to find a solution." He sighed. "Emily, it's nothing personal. I just think you still have a lot to learn. This project is too important to risk." "I agree, Richard. And that's why I'm here to learn from all of you as well. Your experience is invaluable to the success of the project. Can we find a middle ground?" The conversation was difficult, but little by little, Richard began to open up. He shared his ideas and concerns, and together, we found an approach that combined the innovation I sought with the security of the traditional methodologies he advocated. In addition to individual meetings, I started holding team brainstorming sessions, where everyone had the opportunity to contribute their ideas. During one of these sessions, I noticed that there was palpable tension between two team members, Sarah and James. "You two seem to have different views on this aspect of the project," I observed. "Let's put everything on the table and see if we can reach a consensus." Sarah and James began discussing their perspectives, and I mediated the conversation, making sure they were both heard. In the end, we were able to combine elements of both approaches, creating a more robust solution. Over time, these strategies began to bear fruit. The team was more cohesive, and internal conflicts decreased. I learned that being an effective leader is not just about technical knowledge, but also about diplomatic and conflict management skills. Implementing changes and listening to everyone's concerns was essential to strengthening the group's cohesion. The initial resistance I faced didn't completely disappear, but by showing that I was willing to listen and collaborate, I gained the respect of many of my colleagues. And with a more united team, we were finally ready to face the technical challenges that were yet to come. During a night of intense work, something extraordinary happened. I was exhausted, but the determination to find a solution to the technical problems we were facing didn't allow me to rest. The hours passed and the laboratory was silent except for the sound of tools and the computer keyboard. It was then that, amidst the graphs and calculations, something clicked. What if we used a different composite material? I thought out loud. John, who was reviewing some documents next to me, looked up. "What did you say, Emily?" he asked, with an expression of curiosity. I was thinking, what if we tried a new composite material? Something that offers greater resistance and less weight. It could be the key we are looking for, I explained, feeling a growing enthusiasm. John rubbed his chin, thinking about the idea. It could be a good clue. But what material do you have in mind? He questioned. I pulled out my notebook and showed him some ideas I had scribbled down over the past few weeks. I have been researching graphene. It is incredibly light and strong, and its mechanical properties could be exactly what we need, he said, trying to contain his excitement. John looked at my notes and then at me. He seemed to ponder every word, every detail. Emily, this could really work. We'll need to test it, of course, but if it's right, it could revolutionize our approach, he stated, with a gleam of hope in his eyes. We worked all night, reviewing properties, making calculations and discussing the feasibility of applying graphene in our propulsion system. With each passing hour, the theory showed more promise. Exhaustion was replaced by renewed energy, fueled by the possibility that we were on the verge of a great discovery. The next morning, I presented the idea to the rest of the team. There was a mix of skepticism and curiosity on my colleagues' faces. Guys, I know this approach may seem risky, but I believe graphene can be our solution. We need to test its properties in our working conditions, I explained, trying to convey my confidence. Mark, one of the senior engineers, raised his hand. Emily, that's a big bet. If it fails, we could lose weeks of work, he argued, visibly worried. John intervened, supporting my idea. Mark, I understand your concerns, but innovation always involves risks. Emily did a meticulous job on the calculations. "I think it's worth a try," he said, firmly. After a brief discussion, the team agreed to go ahead with the idea. We started testing immediately. The first results were encouraging, and with each new test, our confidence grew. The mechanical properties of graphene exceeded our expectations, offering the strength and lightness necessary for the success of the propulsion system. News of our discovery spread quickly throughout Orion Aerospace. Executives and engineers from other departments came to check on the progress. Technological innovation not only solved our technical problems, but also generated renewed enthusiasm throughout the company. One afternoon, as we were reviewing the test results, Orion's CEO, Mr. Harris, walked into the lab. He watched us in silence for a few minutes before approaching. "Emily, John, I hear you're doing something amazing here. I would like to know more about your discovery," he said, with an encouraging smile. I explained in detail how we had arrived at the solution using graphene and how it could impact our industry. Mr. Harris seemed impressed. "Emily, your innovation can truly put Orion Aerospace at the forefront of the industry. I look forward to seeing the final results," he stated, shaking my hand firmly. The feeling of seeing my work recognized and valued by the entire company was indescribable. The technological breakthrough not only consolidated my position as project leader, but also showed everyone that innovation and the courage to take risks are essential for progress. With the team more united and motivated than ever, we moved quickly to complete the new propulsion system. Every day, confidence in our capabilities grew, and Orion Aerospace prepared for a new era of innovation and success. Dealing with the intense pressure of the new propulsion system development project at Orion Aerospace was a real test for me. For months, my life revolved around work, and I began to realize that I was neglecting other important areas of my life, especially my relationship with Mike, my boyfriend. It was on a particularly stressful night that everything came to a head. I was at home, trying to finish a crucial report when Mike entered the room, visibly irritated. "Emily, can we talk?" he asked, crossing his arms. "Of course, love." What there was? I replied, without taking my eyes off the laptop screen. "What there was?" he repeated, with a tone of exasperation. "You're practically not here anymore. Even when you're at home, your mind is on work. I feel like I'm dating a shadow." Those words hit me hard. I knew I was giving my all to the project, but I didn't realize how much it was affecting our relationship. "Mike, I started, but he interrupted me. I understand that your work is important, Emily. And I support you, I really do. But the thing is, you need to find a balance. It can't be all or nothing." Was he right? I needed to find a way to balance my professional and personal life. That's when I decided something had to change. The next morning, I arrived at the office with new determination. "John, can I talk to you for a minute?" I asked my mentor, John Mitchell, as he reviewed some technical schematics. "Of course, Emily. What is happening?" he replied, looking up from the paper. "I'm struggling to balance my personal life with the demands of the project. I feel like I'm drowning and it's affecting my relationship with Mike." John nodded, understanding. "Emily, I've been there. It's easy to let work consume everything, especially when we're so involved. But you need to delegate more. Trust your team. They are competent and are here to help." From that moment on, I started delegating more tasks to my team. I held meetings to discuss responsibilities and ensure everyone was aligned with the project goals. This not only lightened my workload but also fostered a sense of responsibility and cooperation among team members. At the same time, I made a conscious effort to reconnect with Mike. I organized date nights and took weekends away for both of us without distractions from work. One of these evenings, as we were walking through the park, Mike held my hand and said, "I can see the effort you're making, Emily. This means a lot to me. I knew you could find a balance. Thank you for understanding and being patient, Mike." "I promise I'll keep working on it," I replied, feeling more relieved. As time went on, I realized that taking care of myself and my personal relationships not only made me a happier person, but also a more effective leader. I was more focused and energized at work, and this was reflected in the team's productivity and morale. This experience taught me a valuable lesson about leadership: you cannot be an effective leader if you are not comfortable with yourself. Learning to balance the personal and the professional was crucial to the success of the project and, more importantly, to my happiness and well-being. John always said, "A good leader knows when to ask for help and when to take a breath." And he was absolutely right. So, by delegating more and finding time for myself and Mike, I was able to keep the project on track while strengthening my personal relationships. The journey was challenging, but essential for my personal and professional growth. The success of the project I lead began to bring about a real transformation within Orion Aerospace. It was a gradual but remarkable process that made me realize the impact that a young talent can have on such an established corporation. The first significant change occurred when, during a leadership meeting, I was invited to share my experience and lessons learned throughout the development of the new propulsion system. I remember that day vividly. I was nervous, but determined. I went up on stage and started talking about the technical challenges, the innovations we discovered and, most importantly, the importance of collaboration and mutual respect within the team. At the end of my presentation, the Director of Operations, Mr. Williams, stood up and said, "Emily, your work is not just a technical achievement, but an example of leadership and innovation. We need more young people like you to bring new ideas and approaches to our company." Those words were a watershed moment. Not just for me, but for all the young engineers at Orion Aerospace. We are starting to see a change in hiring and promotion policies. The company began to value more the potential and innovation of young professionals, something that previously seemed to be secondary in an environment dominated by veterans. Shortly afterwards, I was invited to join a leadership committee focused on inclusion and innovation. It was an incredible opportunity to directly influence corporate culture. During one of the committee meetings, I proposed an initiative to create mentoring programs where experienced engineers like John Mitchell could mentor young talent. The idea was well received and quickly implemented. "John, what do you think about leading the mentoring program?" I asked during a coffee break. "Me? Well, I never thought about it, but I think it would be a great way to give back and help the next generation," he replied with a smile. These programs began to change the dynamics of the company. Young engineers gained access to a wealth of knowledge and experience, while veterans found a new way to get involved and feel valued. This created an environment where innovation flourished and ideas were shared openly, regardless of age or tenure. Another memorable moment was when I was invited to speak at an internal innovation conference. During the question and answer session, a young engineer named Carlos raised his hand and asked, "Emily, how do you deal with skepticism and resistance when presenting new ideas?" "Great question, Carlos. I think the key is perseverance and communication. There will always be resistance, but if you believe in your idea, keep working hard and find ways to engage and convince people. And of course, never underestimate the power of a good mentor," I replied, casting an appreciative glance at John, who was in the audience. The cultural change at Orion Aerospace was not just about policies and programs, but also about mindset. We begin to see a company that is more open, inclusive and willing to take calculated risks in the name of innovation. Young professionals, who previously felt marginalized, now had a voice and influence. This transformation was not easy and faced resistance, but the results were undeniable. Orion Aerospace has not only become a better place to work, but has also gained a reputation for innovation and leadership in the aerospace industry. And for me, it was an incredibly rewarding experience to see how my personal and professional journey contributed to this positive change. I was at the height of my career, leading a project that could change the course of Orion Aerospace and perhaps even the aerospace industry as a whole. Everything seemed to be going well, until suddenly we started facing problems that didn't make sense. Critical parts of the propulsion system were failing inexplicably, and the progress we had made was beginning to unravel. One day, after yet another inexplicable failure, John Mitchell, my mentor, came to me with an expression I rarely saw on his face, genuine concern. "Emily, we need to talk. There's something strange going on with the project, and I don't think it's just bad luck or human error," he said, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. I agreed immediately. "I think so too, John. We need to look into this further. We can't let a problem like this destroy all our work." It was then that we decided to launch an internal investigation. We formed a small team of trust to examine every detail, every part, and every maintenance record. We worked nights and weekends, reviewing every possible point of failure. Tension within the team increased as the deadline approached and failures continued to occur. During one of those long nights, while I was reviewing some notes, John entered the room with an even more serious expression than before. "Emily, I think we found something. Come see it." He took me to one of the assembly shops, where part of the propulsion system was disassembled. "Look at this piece," he said, pointing to a small valve. "Someone made a deliberate modification here. This is not a mistake, it is sabotage." My heart raced. Who could do something like that? And why? John shook his head. "I don't know, but we need to find out. This puts not only the project at risk, but also the safety of all of us." From that moment on, the investigation took a more serious turn. We installed additional security cameras and closely monitored the activities of everyone involved in the project. Team morale was low, but I knew I needed to keep everyone focused and united. I called an emergency meeting the next morning. "Guys, we're facing a serious sabotage problem. Someone inside is trying to destroy our work. We'll find out who it is, but until then, we need to redouble our efforts and make sure nothing else goes wrong. I'm counting on each and every one of you." The faces in the room showed a mixture of shock and determination. We knew the work would be even harder now, but we were also more united than ever. A few days later, during a review of security camera footage, we finally had a breakthrough. There, on the screen, was Mark Davis, a veteran engineer, furtively tinkering with one of the critical parts. I couldn't believe what I saw. I called a meeting with John and the company management. "We have proof that Mark Davis is sabotaging the project. We need to act immediately." The administration was shocked but agreed to take quick action. We confronted Mark in a private meeting. "Mark, we have evidence that you are sabotaging the project. What do you have to say in your defense?" I asked, trying to remain calm. He hesitated for a moment, but finally admitted. "I did it because I didn't believe that a young woman like you could lead such an important project. I thought that if I caused some problems, management would realize their mistake and put someone more experienced in charge." I felt betrayed, but also determined. "Mark, your actions not only harmed the project, but also endangered the safety of all of us. You will be removed immediately." With Mark gone, the team came together with a new sense of purpose. We knew time was short, but we also knew we could trust each other. We worked tirelessly, and finally we managed to resolve all the problems caused by the sabotage. The project was back on track, and we were closer than ever to achieving our goal. The experience taught me a lot about leadership, resilience, and the importance of trusting my team. We were ready for the next challenge, and I was more determined than ever to prove that with hard work and dedication, any obstacle can be overcome. After weeks of thorough investigation, we finally got the evidence we needed. The person responsible for the sabotage was Mark Davis, a veteran engineer who initially seemed to be just one of those skeptical of my leadership abilities. John and I were in the conference room, reviewing the data and evidence we had collected. "Emily, I think we have enough to confront Mark," John said, his tone serious. I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. "Yes, the time has come. Let's call him." A few minutes later, Mark entered the room, with an expression that wavered between curiosity and concern. I took a deep breath and started. "Mark, we have something very serious to discuss with you. During the investigation into the sabotage, we found evidence that points directly to you." He frowned, trying to maintain his composure. "What exactly are you talking about, Emily?" John intervened, placing the evidence on the table. Critical parts of the propulsion system have been deliberately damaged, and security cameras show you accessing restricted areas for no apparent reason during suspicious times. Mark looked at the evidence, and his expression changed from confusion to resignation. He knew there was no escape. "Okay, I admit it. It was me." The room was silent for a moment. I was in disbelief, but I needed to understand why. "Why, Mark? Why would you do that?" He sighed deeply, looking at the floor. "I didn't believe that a young engineer, without much experience, could lead such an important project. I felt like my own job and position in the company were being threatened. I felt a mix of anger and sadness. Mark, what you did not only put the project at risk, but also the entire team. Trust and collaboration are key here. Instead of working against me, you could have worked with me." John, ever the voice of reason, added, "We need innovation and new ideas to thrive. Emily brought this to our project. You should have seen this as an opportunity, not a threat." Mark lowered his head, clearly sorry. "I know I made a mistake. And I accept the consequences." With this confession, we knew it was time to inform the company's management. The revelation shook the team, as expected. I gathered everyone in the meeting room for an announcement. "Guys, I know you are all aware of the recent sabotage issues. After a detailed investigation, we discovered that Mark was responsible. He has already admitted his actions and will face the consequences." There were murmurs and expressions of shock among the team. I raised my hand to silence the room. "I know this is difficult to accept, but we need to use this experience to reinforce the importance of trust and teamwork. We learned a lot from this situation, and now is the time to come together even more." John, who was standing next to me, added, "We need to remember that each of us has a crucial role in this project. Our strength lies in our collaboration." The team began to calm down, and I saw a renewal of confidence in their eyes. The sabotage had shaken but not destroyed our spirit. I decided to turn this adversity into a valuable lesson. We will move forward, stronger and more united. We have a deadline to meet, and I know we can do it together. After the meeting, team morale began to recover. The trust we built over time was reinforced. We knew we had a difficult road ahead, but we were more determined than ever. With Mark sidelined, the team worked tirelessly to make up for lost time. Each member brought their best skills, and with John's continued support, we were able to overcome every technical and emotional hurdle. The truth had come out, and I used this revelation to strengthen team cohesion and trust. We were ready to complete the project successfully, knowing that we had overcome one of the greatest adversities together. With the saboteur gone and the team more united than ever, I knew the path was still challenging, but I was also more determined than ever to complete the propulsion system. The sense of urgency and the need to prove the value of our team drove us to work tirelessly in the days leading up to the final presentation. "We need to make sure all the components are perfectly integrated," I said during a team meeting, my voice firm and determined. "We cannot afford to make mistakes at this crucial stage." John Mitchell, my mentor and now a trusted friend, nodded with a faint smile. "We're with you, Emily. All of us." Those words, simple but sincere, infused me with new energy. John's support and the team's renewed commitment made all the difference. The long nights in the laboratory, the sacrificed weekends, and the countless hours of technical discussion began to show promising results. During one of those nights of intense work, while we were adjusting the last details, I had a moment of introspection. "John, do you think we're ready?" I asked, looking at him with a mix of anxiety and hope. He placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Emily, you brought this team here with your vision and determination. Trust in your work and our collective effort. We are ready." On the day of the presentation, the tension in the air was palpable. Teams from various Orion Aerospace divisions, as well as representatives from partner companies and investors, were present. The responsibility of representing months of hard work fell on my shoulders, but I also knew I wasn't alone. "Let's do our best," he told the assembled team before taking the stage. "No matter what happens, I want you to know that I am extremely proud of each and every one of you." The presentation began, and everything went according to plan. We showed the new propulsion system, highlighting our technological innovations, especially the composite material we developed. The audience was attentive, and I could feel the excitement building as we went along. When we finished, there was a moment of silence, followed by a wave of applause and praise. I couldn't believe it. We had done it. The new propulsion system was hailed as a revolution in the aerospace industry, and Orion Aerospace was immediately awarded several new contracts. After the presentation, I was surrounded by colleagues and superiors, all wanting to congratulate the team and, in particular, me. Among them was the company's CEO, Richard Hayes. He approached with a wide smile and a firm handshake. "Emily, your work and leadership on this project has been exceptional," he said. "You have proven that you are an innovative and visionary leader. I am happy to announce that, starting today, you are promoted to Head of Technology Development." Those words were a recognition not only of my work, but also of the dedication of the entire team. Amidst the celebrations, I found John, who looked at me with pride. "I always knew you had it in you," he said, smiling. "I couldn't have done it without you, John," I replied, returning his smile. "Thank you for believing in me." Overcoming technical and social challenges was not only a personal victory, but also a milestone for Orion Aerospace. The success of the project initiated a cultural change in the company, valuing innovation and the potential of young professionals. I was invited to join leadership committees and share my experience, positively influencing corporate culture and inspiring other young engineers. The journey was arduous, but each obstacle overcome made the victory even sweeter. I've proven that regardless of age or experience, determination, creativity and teamwork can redefine what it means to be a young, innovative leader. Just as I, Emily Parker, was enjoying the height of my success, a shocking turn of events occurred. We were still celebrating the successful presentation of the new propulsion system when John Mitchell entered the meeting room with a serious expression on his face. "Emily, we need to talk," he said, looking directly at me. Something about the tone of his voice made me uneasy. "Of course, John. What happened?" I replied, trying to remain calm. He led me out of the room, and I could see the tension in his eyes. "There's something we discovered during the sabotage investigation," he began, hesitantly. "It appears that Mark Davis was not acting alone." My heart accelerated. "What do you mean by that?" "We found evidence that he was taking orders from Thomas Reynolds, the director of engineering," John revealed. "Thomas feared losing his power and influence to you and the new generation of engineers." I was astonished. Thomas Reynolds was an authority figure at Orion Aerospace, someone I respected, although I had always felt a slight distrust of him. "That's unbelievable. How can we prove it?" John explained that the IT team had found incriminating communications between Thomas and Mark. The messages left no doubt about Thomas's intention to sabotage the project to discredit me and maintain his dominance in the company. "We need to take this to the higher-ups immediately," I said, feeling a mixture of indignation and determination. "He can't get away with it." The emergency meeting was called. Orion Aerospace executives listened intently as John and I presented the evidence against Thomas. Thomas himself was present, and his expression went from arrogance to panic as the evidence was revealed. "Thomas, what do you have to say about these accusations?" asked the company's CEO, his voice cool and controlled. Thomas tried to defend himself, but the evidence was irrefutable. I was just trying to protect the company," he stuttered. "I didn't think a young woman like Emily could handle such a complex project. It was for everyone's good." "For everyone's good or for your own good?" I retorted, feeling anger pulsing through my veins. "You put the future of Orion Aerospace at risk out of pure selfishness." The CEO stood up, imposing his presence. "Thomas Reynolds, you are terminated effective immediately and will be sued by the company for your actions. Emily Parker, as of today, you are the new director of engineering at Orion Aerospace." The room erupted in applause, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The feeling of justice finally being done brought tears to my eyes. Later that night, while I was alone in my office, John came in and closed the door behind him. "You did it, Emily. I'm so proud of you." "I couldn't have done it without you, John," I admitted, feeling deep gratitude. "You believed in me when I was beginning to doubt myself." He smiled, a smile full of affection and respect. "You always had it inside you. You just needed a chance to show it." Over the next few months, under my leadership, Orion Aerospace entered a new era of innovation and inclusion. We adopted policies that valued the creativity and potential of young professionals, and the corporate culture changed significantly. At a company celebration event, I was invited to speak. "This success is not mine alone," I said, looking at the assembled team. "It belongs to all of us who believe in innovation, collaboration and justice. Together, we redefine the future of aerospace engineering." The room erupted in applause, and at that moment, I knew we were just getting started. The journey had been arduous, but the reward was immense. I was ready to lead Orion Aerospace into a bright and innovative future.